And so just as a reminder, you guys, like all of these recordings we're recording right now are living out on the Health Coach Mentorship and Mastery platform, which I'm going to kind of do a little quick tour of it at the end today. And just remind, some of you are new and have not even been there yet. There's an entire video that walks you through it, but also wanted to remind you of all the content that's there. I'm working on a dual monitor over here, so if you guys see me looking back and forth, I do remind everyone I'm not paying attention to you. I am working off of two screens here. So today we're talking about webinars, why, when, and what I'd like to do here is try to dispel some of the myths that are going on out there about webinars. Everyone thinks that they're supposed to be doing webinars. Just because everyone is doing them, everyone feels compelled to do them. There are just, oh, Kathy says I don't have my laptop camera. Okay, that's all right. I mean, if you don't worry about links or anything today, Kathy, it's no big deal. I've got a lot of information I'm going to share anyway where you can see it. But so here's the thing. I want to tell a little bit about my story and how I try to back up everything I say with experience and things that I learned the hard way, etc. And one of them was that I felt like because I was moving into a more online presence with my clients, that I had to know how to do webinars. I didn't even know what they were, but I knew the word and I knew that everyone was doing them, and I automatically felt compelled to learn them, that I needed to know to buy the most expensive platform for them, so I did. And then I spent the next couple of months looking at the platform that I paid all this money for, and then like literally shutting it down, opening it and closing it, like overwhelmed. Had no idea what it was for, what I was supposed to do with it, nothing. But I paid a bunch of money for it, and it basically went to waste. I canceled the subscription, and then I went another year or so without looking at them. That's how overwhelmed I got about the thought of doing a webinar. So then what happened was moving even more and more into the online teaching and education for my clients, where I wanted to help more people at one time instead of just doing the one-on-one. I felt like I've got to get in front of people. Somehow I've got to figure out a way to get in front of people where I feel comfortable, but also that it's easy and almost seamless. I didn't want to have to worry about having someone in there moderating and adminning all kinds of things for me. I just wanted to be able to talk to my clients and teach a group without all of that hoopla. So then I bought another platform. So let's just fast forward to the several thousands of dollars. Some of it I got back, some of it I canceled before the subscription, that 30-day free trial thing. Some of that happened, and then I found Zoom. So I'm an affiliate with Zoom, but I'm not even sharing my link with you guys because I think it's that important that everybody check it out for their own meetings, for their webinars. It is hands down. Literally, I kick myself when I think of all of the money and time I spent trying to learn how to do webinars on other areas, because it was like 6 minutes, and I think I understood how to do a webinar on Zoom, as opposed to months and weeks of staring at something I had no idea what it was, how to get started. It was so confusing. I mean, even sharing the screen is a click of a button on here. So those of you who has anybody ever not been on Zoom before? Are you guys all real familiar with Zoom? It's really, really big mainstream now, but when it first came out, it was kind of like part of the soft launch beta thing where they were just having us go in and check it out. And I was like, I'm sold. I don't even need to like be on here for a month for free. Like, I'm in. So one thing just to remember, when you're doing on the meetings with your clients, if you want to do group coaching, you want to do one-on-one, you want to work online, and that's the way you're going, or you are tired of being on the phone, you feel like you want to provide that recording for them for that low risk and low liability for your practice, right? Because when we record these things, there will be none of that he said, she said stuff in the future. If someone says, well, she said I could heal this, and she said I could cure that. Well, we have a recording here, and it lives in my file, so I'd be happy to share that with you, whatever. It's just kind of a backup plan. You do that, you can do your meetings that way, and I think it's $9.99 a month through Zoom to have a meeting of up to 50 people. So if you are still in the group coaching thought process where you haven't leapt into it yet because you don't know how to go about it, you can have a $9.99 membership to Zoom. You can have up to 50 people in your group. You can do almost like a webinar, just like this. You can share your screen. You can have conversations with people on here. You chat, answer questions, share links, all of it. The only difference between the webinar and the meeting room is going to be you're going to have a little bit more on your menu at the bottom where you'll have a Q&A button, and you'll have the ability to invite a panelist. So like if you wanted me to come and talk to some of your clients about thyroid or something like that as a bonus to what you're offering, you would have to invite me through that process. So that's all I want to say about that part of the Zoom, because I've done a whole bunch of talks and stuff on Zoom before. But today I really want to talk about, and since I've already done a webinar actually on how to do a webinar on Zoom, I'm not going to do that either, because I'm going to share that link with you guys as kind of an added to this and a reminder, and for those of you who are new. But today I want to talk about when it's appropriate, why you should be thinking about doing webinars, when you shouldn't put that stress on yourself about webinars, and kind of like give you some looks at some stuff that might be beneficial for you in the future. So first thing I want to say is this: webinars are for a myriad of different reasons. We do them, we attend them, we learn from them for so many different reasons. And so I'm going to share a document with you guys that I found today. I'm going to kind of walk through it. So give me 1 second and I'll pull up the screen. And I don't know if anybody's seen this or not, but it's HubSpot.com, and it talks about, do you really need to do a webinar? So let me talk about that real quick. We're going to walk through it and just kind of, and I can see Robin. Can you tell me if you can see my screen okay? Or you can just give me a nod. You're good? Okay. And I know you're talking, but I can't hear you. As a reminder, I've got your, yeah, okay. So for those of you who are not familiar with Zoom, your microphone lives in the bottom half of your menu. So if you want to hit that and unmute yourself, that's where you find it. Okay, so when do you really need to host a webinar? Do you really need to do a webinar? So I just want to say that the first sentence on this article is hands down going to be the most important one all day long. Don't be fooled. They can be a lot more work than they seem. That is an absolute understatement. You don't simply get on and just talk to people. Most of the time when you're doing a webinar, you have to have something to present to them, something to show them, something to keep them interested. And that is where your slide deck comes in, or your training materials come in. And we're going to look at slide decks in a moment. But just, saying, I want to do a webinar on the importance of eating leafy greens for vitamin K. Okay, great. That's a great topic, great idea. Lots of people don't understand, the connection between vitamin K and coumadin and blood thinners and all that. Lots of content, absolutely fabulous. How do you even begin to teach people about that? Well, you have to have things that they can understand. You have to talk in their language, and that's where your slide deck comes in. So when I show you those in a minute, I'm going to give you some tips about slide decks too. And I also did a webinar, a class on slide decks. So if you don't know how to put one together, I've done a training on that for you guys too. So, basically before you actually even think about doing this, you need to be that person that doesn't have a fear of the camera. You need to be that person that knows that things are never going to be absolutely perfect. You're not going to look perfect. The wind may blow and knock off your signal. Things are going to happen. So to think of the worst thing that could possibly happen, think of it and then be done with it, because it's going to. That's just the way it is. This is technology. This is live stuff. There's been times where I've been doing a webinar, I've been doing a class or something where I have my screen up, and there'll literally be a hair sticking out on the side of my head that will be the biggest distraction I've ever had and drive me crazy. That sounds insane, but that can happen. And the glare of my glasses, this is another example. When I first started doing webinars a couple of years ago, someone said, your glasses are extremely distracting. And I thought, well, I can either wear the distracting glasses and teach you something valuable, or I can go blind. Like, I can't do anything about that. So just know that you're not always going to have a perfect, seamless delivery. Things are going to happen. You're going to forget things. It's just part of it. So you've got to move past the fear of being on a video, being recorded, people seeing you talking live, before you can even think about doing a webinar. Now, some people don't need their screen up like this. Like, I'm seeing me, I'm seeing Robin having lunch, I'm seeing the top of Kim's head, I'm seeing some of you floating around on my screen, right? You don't have to be seen in a webinar. You can turn off all the videos and just be a voice. And if that's more comfortable for you, that's fine too. But if you've been to any of my webinars lately, you'll notice that 90% of the time, I like to do a personal introduction. I don't see a lot of that happening out there in the world today. I see a lot of people putting up screens and beautiful pictures of themselves and nice photo shoots, and then you hear them talking, but I don't see a lot of personal connection. So I think that, introducing yourself in a personal way in a webinar before you put up a slide deck can be a really powerful way for people to connect to us. To know that, yes, we're doing this online and it's technology, but here I am. I'm a real person. My hair's still wet. It's been one of those days, but here I am, and we're all here to learn, and we're all just people. Okay. All right. So you've got to know that you can conduct a thoughtful Q&A. And now the Q&A isn't just when you're interviewing people. The Q&A kind of thing is, it can happen at the end or during your webinar. It's up to you. Now, when you're doing the webinar, I always kind of recommend, you know what, you guys, I'm going to wait until the very end to wait for your questions and go through the Q&A part of this, because I want to stay on track and make sure I stay focused for you. That's kind of the way I like to do my webinars. I don't like to stop in the middle, because sometimes it's a training I'm going to put out to the world, and then stopping in the middle can distract me. So it's really nice to let people know ahead of time. We're going to do a Q&A at the end. So just stick around with your questions or put them in the box. I promise not to hang up until everyone has their answers. Okay, so let's just say you've got someone that you want to bring in, or you've got a partner or a panelist or someone you want to work with. That can kind of actually make things either better or worse when you're doing webinars, okay? It can make you feel more nervous because you don't know if that person's going to show up, first of all. Is their video going to be clear? Is their audio going to be good? Or is there going to be a problem with streaming on their side? So that can create a little bit of anxiety, but it can also, for some people, be a little bit of an anxiety reliever, because you've got someone else to lean on. So if you kind of stumble, or you feel like, you know, you're lacking content, or you're like, I don't even know where I am. You can even say that, like, I just lost my train of thought. Can you fill in some space while I gather myself? Oh, absolutely. So it can go either way. I've done a lot of interviews with experts. You guys have access to tons of them in the mentorship group, so go take a look. And you can see there are times where I'm distracted, or I have moments maybe where I'm forgetting, you know, what train of thought I am, or they've forgotten. I mean, one girl had her dog was chewing on a bone in the background, and then she disappeared. Like sometimes they can be comical. So just know that, you know, if you have a partner to work with, try to do a trial run ahead of time, and always put yourself into practice mode. Most of the webinar platforms, and I'm just going to speak from Zoom because I don't think it's worth going to look anywhere else, but that's just me. When I'm working in there, I always do a practice mode. So no one else can see me and that person, by the way. That exists. If you're doing webinars, you can set that up where you can be with your person, your partner, your panelist, and you can have a conversation, make sure everything's working, have a little talk, you know what you're going to say before you broadcast to people. That's another thing nobody told me about Zoom. I was so nervous, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I can do this for 5 minutes. I can spend time getting comfortable. So it's called, when it comes on, there's a link in Zoom that shows you broadcast option or something like that. In the training on webinars, I show you guys all of that. So when I'm saying this stuff, I don't want you to feel like it's foreign language. You go out and watch that training, it'll explain everything. So another reason you would do a webinar is knowing that human explanation will help. And so for me, this is important, because I feel like when someone asks me a question, I'll use you guys as an example. In the Health Coach Mentorship Mastery group on Facebook, sometimes just typing out an answer is not good enough for me. I feel like it deserves and needs that spoken word behind it, so I can clearly explain how to do something. And sometimes that's the way it is with your clients too. You can say, words to someone like endocrine system and hormones and all of those scary medical words. When they're not scary at all to us, it can be helpful to explain and do communication in a spoken word to say things to them. Like if they say, for example, the doctor may say to them, you have gut permeability and leaky gut and IBD and all this, and they go home from that doctor's appointment and they're freaking out, and they might send you a question in your group and ask, what does that mean? And they're panicked, and you can hop on with a live video and say, hey, I just want to take a minute to you can stream, by the way, in your webinar, stream into your group and say, just wanted to take a minute to ask you to take a deep breath and explain that this is a really common thing. And so the tone of your voice, the way you deliver things can really make a difference in how people understand, how they're taking your information, absorbing it, how they're sharing it with others. Okay. I'm like one of those learners. I'm visual, I'm audible, and I'm hands-on. I am so high maintenance as a learner. It's ridiculous. I mean, someone say to me, well, I'm going to send you a recording. I'm like, I'd really like a handout and something to read. And I'm like, I like it all. So for those people, webinars are fabulous, right? So I don't know anybody else that is high maintenance as me when it comes to learning. I'm so annoying. Bless Kaylee and Mike, they're like, oh, Carmen. So I'll say, well, I don't get it. And they're right back, So, and if you're those people, if you were those people in this mentor group and you need that explanation from me, I'm happy to get on and do that for you because I understand that, okay? All right, so let's say you have an expert and you want to share that person, great time to do a webinar. If you don't have all the knowledge about something you want to share with people, but you have someone that does, perfect time to add value to your people, to your groups, to your clients, to get that person on and answer questions. Okay, so when not to host a webinar, you know, the topic doesn't merit holding a webinar. I mean, I guess for me, I'm like, well, I mean, I don't want to talk about something if it's not important. So, you know, I mean, I'm kind of that person that thinks all this stuff is important. So I don't really understand this statement right here, but maybe it resonates for some of you guys. And I also don't understand you have a global audience. I have a global audience. I have people in Australia, Europe, Alaska. I have people in Africa, New Zealand, everywhere. So I think that if you do have a global audience, that webinars can be super powerful, especially if they're recorded and you can send them out at times where they don't have to be awake for them. Like one girl would get up at 2 a.m. and I finally told her, I'm like, you don't have to do that. I'm going to send you the recording, personally email it to you. So stay in bed. 2 a.m. is not worth learning about, you know, MailChimp or something like that. Okay. And it says your content isn't interactive. So what that means to me is if you're doing a webinar and you don't really have anything that you're going to offer them for free, or you don't have a way to communicate with them, it probably isn't a great time to do a webinar, because people like to interact. They like to ask questions. They like to talk to each other. If you've ever gone back and looked at a chat box after a webinar, most of the time they're not even talking about the stuff you're talking about. They're like, hey, I see you're from Washington. Me too. And they're talking to each other. That keeps them on and it keeps it fun. But it's also a way, you know, for them to find those other people that are part of their tribe too. So if you don't have the ability to do all of that, then I would agree with that. Okay, so I'm going to skip these last two. I'm going to share the link with you guys because I don't want to speak to the don't have help from others or your audience is too niche, because I don't believe in having a niche anyway. So anyway, I'm going to skip those last two and I want to move into looking at a couple things that might benefit you guys if you're considering doing webinars, and I want to check questions. Okay. So is anybody doing webinars successfully and loving them, or doing them and hating them? Put your stuff in the chat box so I can see. So Kim is saying, I haven't done one yet. Kathy's waving at me and I can't see her. Hi, Kathy. And Kim, you're brand new to Zoom. You're going to love it. It's just so awesome. It's so awesome. And Kathy's saying, can you show how to go through the food guide too? Oh, okay. Yeah. So you want me to walk through the food guide? Okay. I'll pull that up also. For those of you who haven't seen it yet. And yeah, okay. So Kathy is put in the chat having a bowl behind you. Thank you for reminding me. So here's a tip, you guys, and I do talk about this as well, but it's kind of funny. So I had been doing webinars and meetings and all of that stuff, and I had a picture behind me, right? Like this big, beautiful painting that we purchased in Costa Rica. I had it from a local artist, had it shipped, gorgeous. I loved the colors. I thought it was a perfect kind of a background, right? Y'all, that bowl had a, you know what? And then you know what in my webinars was like sitting on my shoulder. Are y'all tracking me on what I'm talking about so I don't have to say the P word on webinar, on class? In the painting, it was literally like, looked like it was on my shoulder. So one day I was reviewing my own webinar, which I never do. I don't like to go back and look at it. I was like, oh my gosh. And so make sure when you sit down in front of your computer that you look behind you and make sure there's nothing back there that's going to distract or be inappropriate or anything that you don't want people to see. Does that make sense? Like I'm looking at Kim's beautiful flower picture behind there. That's so pretty, right? Okay, so I have had to make some adjustments to the backgrounds of my webinar because of that bowl picture that embarrassed me to death. But that's just another example of how imperfect I am. Okay, all right, let me see here. All right, I'm gonna pull over. So you guys are looking at the perfect webinar page, right? As you guys see this with Russell Brunson. So here's the deal with Russell Brunson. If you're not following him, I highly recommend that you do. He's got amazing information. I actually recommended his book, the .com Secrets book. And you know, he's got the finger on the button when it comes to how to make money doing webinars and stuff like that. He has an actual webinar script that I had purchased, and I was kind of tossing around using it and not using it and this was recently, you guys. This was before my most recent launch. Because it was just, I don't know, I'm going to show it to you in a minute, but it looked to me, it was a template, and it looked like, oh, super simple. Just add your information, plug it in where he tells you to, right? And so I thought, all right, I'm going to do it. So I pull it over, I start to work, and I'm literally overwhelmed, and I didn't feel like it was authentic to me. It just didn't feel right to me. So I'm going to show it to you in just a second, and then I'm going to show you what I ended up doing instead. But if you're a person who wants a template and a program and a system that actually generates that income, you probably should look at the perfect webinar script. It may work for you. It may not, but I think it's like only $47 or something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this on. I'm going to move this over, but so you guys can actually, so I don't lose the link, okay? So perfectwebinarsecrets.com is the website to take a peek at. All right, so this is, pulling this over. This is the perfect webinar script. So I'm giving you a look at it right now before you even spend money on it. I'm going to show you what it looks like. And I'm going to tell you why it's going to be great for some of the things I want to do and why it didn't work for some of the other things I was trying to do. So this is a template. Has anybody done slide decks? Everybody familiar with slide decks? No. Yes. Okay. No. Okay. So remember, I did a slide deck training. I did a whole class on this for you guys. So you can see, I talk all about slide decks, webinars, all of that. So don't forget, there's extra training out there. So if you're missing, if you feel like there's something you don't understand, it's already been explained. But this is a slide deck, and this is where you basically create and you build something that leads into something that you're offering that's paid. Okay. So it's free training. It's valuable information on the front end. Notice how to do, this is his template. So let me pick a topic. Hold on a minute. Let me brainstorm for just a second. Let me think. So let's say you're trying to teach your client how to eat organic without going broke. Okay. So for example, you would put in here how to, and you take out the word blank, eat organic without going broke. That's the title of your webinar. Okay. Now, for those of you who haven't done slide decks before, hold on a minute. I'm going to show you the presentation. I'll put the presentation notes up so you can see what this looks like. Nobody ever told me about these either. I was like, how am I supposed to remember all of that? And then this girl was like, there's presentation notes. I'm like, oh, you can type down here. Wow. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so blonde sometimes. No offense to anybody that's blonde. But so down here, I would put my goal. So how to eat organic without going broke. So my goal today, so this is the screen that these people are seeing, right? Your audience sees the words my goal. But you don't want to put all the stuff you want to say in there because they can read, right? But they want to hear from you. So you would put down here, my goal is to teach you about the Dirty Dozen, about how you can actually eat organic food within the seasons where it's more cost effective, about how you can save money with this online coupon program for organics, whatever it sounds like for your teaching style and what you want to say, those notes would go on the bottom, okay? If you stay until the end. So he walks you through this entire process of how to keep people with you, how to put that announcement out, how you make your promises, all of that. So if you stay until the end, because that's what you want people to do, right? Because we're providing free value at the front end of this webinar. At the end, we're going to pitch something for them to purchase. That's the way webinars and trainings and how you make money online works. It's just the way it is. You can do webinars for free as well, which I'm going to talk to you about in a minute. But right now we're doing, for the interest of leading from a free program into a paid program, this is the slide deck layout, okay? So he's got it all, and let me tell you, people are making money with this. He's got it laid out exactly how we work, how our minds work when we're thinking about purchasing things. What makes this training different? And then you would put something down here that speaks to whatever. I'm going to tell you about, the labels and what they mean. I'm not just going to simply tell you organic is better for you. I'm going to blah, 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 blah. Okay. Then he has it set up where you talk about who you are, and notice these little space holders where you want to put pictures in a view or things that make it interesting and that speak to your topic. And then you're going to tell them, like, super awesome thing number one, I'm going to tell you about the most affordable organic food out there that's the best with the highest antioxidants. Super awesome thing number two. Whatever it is, whatever your awesome things are. Then you talk about the things you've done right. So you talk about your successes. And let me say this. I've attended a lot of webinars over the years that are geared towards coaches just to kind of see what people are talking to you guys about. And I'm telling you right now that this section right here is important. That you don't lie to people about what you've done right. Don't make something up to make people think that you're this, amazing person that did all of these things. Talk about what really you've done right. So I've seen people out there saying, I've got a 4,000 people email list in less than a week, and I've done this and this and all these promises. And to me, that's just a big fat turnoff. Just be real when you're telling people what you've done right in your life. For example, when I was trying to shift into organic eating, I might tell a story that says, I was reading labels I was reading labels every time I went into the store, and I thought I had it all going on, but I was getting home and I still wasn't cleaning my produce. And I might tell a personal story here, okay, that speaks to people. And then when you say I've done a lot of things wrong, you might say, I had no idea that the number 9 before organic, something like that. But when you're doing your webinars, keep your stories in here personal and authentic and real and true to who you are, okay? So I'm not going to go through every single one of his slides. I'm just going to give you pictures that he has put together, a template for people who don't want to do this for themselves, that want the template that's easy to plug in their own information, and that leads from a free group into a paid group. Does that make sense to you guys so far? Okay, so that's what this webinar purpose would be, is if you have lots of value and stuff you want to share with people, you're trying to get your audience built so they trust you, they get to know you, and then at the end of it, that's where you're going to pitch. And I'm going to take you to the pitch in just a second, but I want to check the chat and make sure that I'm not missing anything. Okay, so yeah, Kim says, I haven't had a niche in 10 years. I was told I had to have one, which, yeah, I mean, okay. So everyone is told that, but that's the reason you're told that you have to have a niche, because of the marketing part, right? That's what they tell us. Well, it's easier for you to do the marketing and advertising if you know who you're talking to. Sure it is. Absolutely it is. But if you aren't passionate about the niche that you're trying to help, if you aren't educated on what their needs are, like you can make hormones your niche because it sells and it's easy to market to, but what if you don't know anything about hormones? What if you're not passionate about it? Then you're going to change it again. Or maybe, just maybe you have too many things that you know about and you're super smart and you want to share it all. So to me, I'm the exact opposite. I don't think you have to have a niche. I think you need to be coaching. And if the niche comes to you, fabulous. But just prepare yourself for the fact that it could change at any time. So if you set up your entire website focused on thyroid, and then all of a sudden you're like, I've had more people with autoimmune rheumatoid arthritis lately, and I'm loving being able to help them, but my whole website speaks to thyroid. How are the rheumatoid arthritis people going to find you? Oh, now I got to go back and change it all. All my business cards have to be changed, on my website, my materials, everything. So to me, it just doesn't make sense. But so now you have a niche and you're not even sure how to target market them. That's exactly the opposite of why we would have a niche, right? So Kim, if you have questions about that, put it in the group and let's talk about how to help you move through that problem. Okay. That way, I can go back, track it, and we can see it in the feed and everyone else can learn from it too. Because that's not a great problem, but it's a great topic. Let's see here. PowerPoint is the same as slide decks. Yes. PowerPoint slide. Well, yeah. I mean, unless you don't have a PowerPoint program and someone else is, you're putting it together and I don't know, like Keynote. Like Keynote doesn't call it PowerPoint until you export into PowerPoint. Kim says, how do I get to your webinar trainings? I'll show you today where to find that. And I'll show you how to get to the membership site too and how to navigate that. All right. Yeah, Kathy's asking, you're in the mentorship group. Yeah. Okay, so we'll make sure you're clear on that at the end today. So let me just get to another one I want to show you guys. Okay, so this is the value part. More of the value part that he's talking about is secret number 1, 2, and 3. And then he takes it and he leads you through how to set it up, how to talk about it, how to explain the secret. You can add slides in, you can put in pictures, you can do whatever you want to the template. But he's setting it up for you guys for where people are having success with free to paid, okay? Let me see here. Let me show you. Okay, so testimonials, those are always good to include on your slide decks, your pricing points, what they're going to get with it, and so on and so forth. So one thing about this I want to say about this slide deck that, and there's a lot, he's got a lot of slides in here, even though mine ended up being twice as many as this when I changed it, is that I feel like this is kind of a cold, hard slide deck. I'm more of a soft, personal person. I like to have a little bit more visuals. I like to have less of the red glaring stuff on my slide deck. So I'll show you what I ended up doing to the one that that I started out with this, and it morphed into it's a whole new animal by itself, you guys. Kaylee, my friend and my teammate Kaylee was like, Carmen, like, what are you doing? Okay, so let me see here. Hold on a second. Give me a minute to find my recent. Is this here it is. Perfect webinar draft. Okay. So I don't know if anybody was on the webinar last Monday that I did. Possibly. Was anybody on there? The one that I pitched the group? Okay. All right. So this started out like the one I just showed you. And I was like, oh, I don't like that. And I don't like that. and that's too bright, and that's too much red. So I went through and made some changes where I put some pictures in there, and I tried to soften it up a little bit without so much glaring stuff. And I just felt like it was working better for me. So even though you're given a template with a webinar, it may not be for you. So don't panic if it's not. You make it your own. That's the beauty of a template, that you can change anything you want to on it. So that's what I did with this. I ended up putting in things that I felt were just a little bit more personal. See, this is looking familiar, right? So done a lot of things right, and a lot of things wrong, but took out some of that red glaring stuff. So if you're thinking about using the perfect webinar as a template, I'm pretty sure it's only $47 still. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it is. If someone wants to look at it and let us know, that would be great. But just know that you can. It's a great way to get started if you've never done a slide deck and you haven't done a webinar before. There's training in there. He does videos for you. So it's really good for that. Okay. So this is also, we're going to move into when you don't pitch with a webinar and you're not selling anything and you're doing like a webinar for just sharing information or teaching something valuable that's going to live in your group or for your clients or whatever it may be. Maybe it's something that you want to teach every client and you don't want to have to repeat yourself every time. A slide deck is a great way to do that. So I have a course called Education, Preparation, and Action. And what I was doing at the very beginning of creating this method years ago was I was explaining the whole thing to everyone every single time. It was absolutely exhausting. I don't even know why it took me so long to do this, probably because I was fearful of webinars and scared of everything. But so what I ended up doing when I mastered the idea of being in the camera and training and how to do all of this with the Mac and the QuickTime and the screenshots and all of that is I created a slide deck that that speaks to the client. So this one is for coaches. I turned the one for my clients into the one for you guys to use to teach. And it's simply just information. And it was me talking. So on this one, I didn't even have an audience. I simply did like a training in my webinar platform, and it lives out there in a video platform for you guys, which I think it's loaded under trainings or how-tos, but we'll look at it in a minute. So as you can see, it's just education. It's more information about language. And in the background, I'm talking. So you're not seeing the words on the bottom here. This was just helping me along so I didn't forget anything really important. But so you can kind of see the difference in this, right? You can kind of see the difference in the free value to the pitch to just some training that's helpful and informative. These slide decks can be really, really good, you guys, if you want to put something together and you're not comfortable talking to people yet, that you can share with people in your groups. You can load them into files for people and just get used to the idea of doing this kind of training. It's a kind of a good training for the training, so to speak. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about this kind of stuff so far? Am I explaining everything okay? You can just nod at me, or you can shake your head and say I'm completely lost and tell me where you're lost. Okay. Let me check the chat, and then I want to look at something else. Yeah. Kathy says you can get the script for free. Yes, you can. But he's going to pitch to you to purchase the template and the training and all that kind of stuff. Okay. All right. And I also want to say this. Pitching is, I hate that word, but that's what you do. It's what we do. We all sell. Everybody sells. So there's a lot of conversation going on right now on the Clarity group, some of it on the mentor group too, about how people are tired of being pitched to. I'm tired of being sold to. I'm so exhausted of it. If I see one more person trying to get me signed up for a course, I'm going to scream. I mean, like, all that's going on. But guess what you guys are going to be doing if you're not doing it right now? You're going to be selling. Because if you're not selling, you don't have a business. Okay? So here's the thing I want to say is we're all selling. Like, you go to get your oil changed, right? They're going to try and sell you a filter. True? Like, how many times have you gotten your oil changed where you're like, you want to walk in and go like this? I don't want a filter. I just want my oil changed, right? I saw someone post on Facebook the other day, and she said, is there anywhere in town I can just get an oil change without all the hoopla about and the headache of a filter? And I thought to myself, all you have to do is say no. Like, you're getting a headache over someone trying to sell you a filter. Like, you got problems. Like, go get some therapy over a filter. Okay? Because here's the thing. Everywhere we go, we're being sold to. If you go to Bath and Body Works, do you want a basket? No, I just want to get this one thing of lotion for my niece. And then you've got bundles of stuff in your arms, right? Before you get to the register, are you not like loaded down with every smelling good thing for all your friends and family? And then they're like, you sure you don't want a basket? Well, that basket is a seller because she knew that if she gave you a basket, you're going to have more stuff. So just remember, as health coaches, we want to help people. We're passionate about, we love it. Yes. But we also have to honor ourselves and what we're doing to build a successful business. And that is to sell to people. And so here's the way you can do it without feeling icky about it. Be authentic about it. Be who you are when you're doing it. Don't offer something that you aren't going to deliver on. Seriously amp up your customer service as a person, and remember the days when we did not have automated answering things on our phone, automated email, texting. Remember when we talked to people? Do y'all remember those days? And I'm aging myself here. I'm 46 years old, and my first job was working in a clothing store. And I've always been like this stupid overachiever. I'm like, I'm going to learn the register, like now. Like, what's your first day? Well, I want to know how to do it. Okay. How about you go out there and work with people first? I'm like, okay. So then I showed myself super personable. But the thing to me was, do you need anything? You know, like being that customer service person, right? I can go anywhere now and like, can you help me? Like you're looking for someone to help you with something, right? That's the way it is online too. It is so, we are so disconnected that I think that the better customer service, the more honest you are, the more authentic you are, the more business you're going to get. People are starving for human connection. So, you know, if you're feeling icky about who's selling to you, it's probably because they don't feel authentic to you, right? And if I ever feel icky to you guys, let me know. Like, Carmen, that doesn't feel like you. That's icky or whatever. And I'll be like, okay, maybe I'm stepping outside of myself a little bit. So just remember that when you come across as who you are and you have a real passion for helping people, then that energy exchange there is for you to be paid for that. Okay. So, all right. So no niche, no problem. This exists out there for you guys too. This might even be helpful for you, Kim. I mean, it's a webinar I did, and I think I pitched at the end of it some program or something. It was the Education Preparation Action Program, but the training is still valuable. So just skip the pitching part at the end and watch it for that purpose. But this is another example. Now, this is before I had the Russell Brunson template. This is how I did my webinars. I like to have the visuals, and I like to keep the bullets as speaking points when I do them. And I'm not going to teach the webinar stuff because I've already done that. But notice how there's just kind of some talking points through here. Because when we're doing webinars, we want to be ourselves. We want to speak, we want to teach and speak from our experiences and the things that we want to share, not reading from something. People can read. When you're sitting here talking about what you're led to believe, they've already read through those bullet points before you've even gotten probably 30 seconds into what you want to say. So if they wanted to just read something, then we could fill the whole page with text. They want to hear what you have to say. So make sure that you practice your webinar presentations, and that you stick to the bulleted information that is important that you can speak to. So I did quotes here because these are all things that I had heard from coaches, and I wanted to connect with other coaches that were feeling the pressure to have a niche. So these are real things that I pulled out of some of my mentoring groups and addressed, verbally, was able to say to them, okay, this is why you don't have to worry about that. Okay. All right. And always, and I just want to say this, make sure your picture goes with what you're saying. Like stop goes with like me saying, please stop believing that you have to have a niche. Just get out there and help people. Now, if I put a picture of some blueberries right here, you'd be like, what in the heck are the blueberries there for? You probably would miss everything I'm trying to tell you about coaching because you're like, blueberries doesn't go with niche. It doesn't go with coaches. Why would she put a blueberry? I love that picture. Where did she get that? Is that free? And then someone might type in the chat, do you know where she gets her pictures? That blueberry picture is pretty. And then everyone's talking about blueberries, right? So make sure that your picture goes with what you're speaking so you don't lose anybody. Okay. We don't want to veer anyone off the topic and drag the rest of everybody in with them. And that does happen too. Okay. All right, so let's see here at 12:41. I'm going to go into, I'm checking questions again just to make sure. Yeah, and I love that, Anita, you say selling is just an offer to help them. They can decide if they're going to buy or not, just like when they go to a store. And Karen says connecting to people feels much better than pushing them to buy. Absolutely. And you know what? And this is just like the same thing with Facebook, is you don't have to read those posts that offend you. That's the beautiful thing. You can hang up off that webinar if you don't want to be pitched to. You don't have to hit buy. So one of the things that I've been noticing is when we get offended, I'm studying offense right now. I don't know if anybody even thinks that's an important thing, but I want you guys to think about this because it's probably going to be a part of what I teach at some point when I'm done studying it. But how many of you get offended, know what offended is, or know what offense is, and what it feels like to be offended every single day in your life? Like, you got to know what I'm talking about here. Like, you're in traffic, for example, and someone is going 42 and a 50, right? Have you ever been that person that's like, come on, it's 50. Why are we going 42, right? That's offended. You're literally offended by the fact that someone is driving 42 and a 50. Here's another one. How many times has someone said something to you about like something that you're wearing? Like, oh, I love that color on you. It'd probably look good in pink too. And you're like, is this color not good enough? Do you not like the blue? What's wrong? You said you like the blue, and now you're talking about pink? Offended, right? Okay, so we are getting offended so many times every single day without even being aware that we are offended. And I am seeing it over and over and over. People are getting offended by people's marketing. People are offended by videos that people are putting up on Facebook. I highly encourage you to try to let go of the offense as people are trying to teach you about health coaching or pull you into programs, because it's energy you don't need to be spending on these things. If you're not interested in it, move away from it, but don't spend one more little drop of energy on being offended by people trying to get your business, okay? It's energy that you need to be spending on the things that you are interested in and the things that you are using for your business, okay? Too many people offended about business today. I mean, it's just, I was that way too. And then I started studying offense and offensiveness, and I thought, why am I doing this to myself? Okay, let me drag over. I want to drag over hold on a moment, the Mentorship and Mastery login. And so I can show you guys the back of that. And also, of course, again, just a reminder, I have a Bitly training video, real short training video for you guys. Bitly is awesome. Takes those big, long URLs that you're sharing with your clients and plugs them into tiny little cute ones that you can then customize. So let me see if I can find it. Where is it? Login, dashboard login. Here it is. Okay, so when you guys were added to the group, whether you got it free or you bought it or you bought the course or whatever, however you ended up in the Mentorship and Mastery group, you should have gotten an email. And I know that they're working. So many people are like, it's not working for me. Well, it's working for 100 other people. So I know that the link is working, but it's probably getting pushed into your spam and junk. So please check there first before you say that you never got it. And if you don't have it, let me know, and I'll make sure that I put Kaylee or Mike, someone with you, so that you can access this. This is where you go to get all the stuff that we do. All of our recordings, everything lives in here. And I did a walkthrough on this. So when you log in, I want you to take the tour, okay? Because I'm not going to go through the whole tour today, but I wanted to come in here and because Kim had asked specifically, and I also just wanted to show some new people, you don't just get access to a Facebook group where we talk and plug in a training here and there. All of the content lives here for you guys. So the tour, when you hit that video, is going to walk you through all of the content you get. All of this. Mentorship calls, coaching clients, wellness experts that I've done that I highly encourage you to look at if you're thinking about doing webinars, because that's what these are. This is me interacting with other people and having specialists on there. Recorded webinars so you can kind of see how they go. Training. I mean, if you're like, there's the slide deck training. There's the basics of setting up a webinar using Zoom. These are all pre-recorded for you guys. Okay. So, if it's something you want to do, go in there and do it. Don't say, well, I'll watch that later. Watch it now. Get yourself motivated to do it. Don't be afraid of video. Spend some time on it and get used to it. Okay. All right. And Kathy had said she wanted me to show the whole food guide again. And okay. So just as a reminder, let's see here. There is a tour right here as well. So if you want to walk through and see kind of a walkthrough of the whole food guide, besides what I'm about to pull up and just show you real quick, there's a video on that as well. So if you have not accessed the whole food guide is another template that I've given to you guys. It's in a Word document. Every single thing in here, you can take it out and put whatever you want in. Take out this down at the bottom. All the stuff in yellow is me, like my name, my business, my copyright. So take out what's yellow, put whatever you want to put in there. And share this with your clients. So it's got links in it for everything you could possibly need to talk about the approach that we are taking to helping our clients, which is the whole food and the sleep and work, stress perception. The two pillars of health that I've added are not in the food guide, and I don't know that I'll put them in there. I haven't decided because it's really a food guide, but it has some basic information on stress in the back. But, you know, if you are someone who believes in a plant-based diet, then take the paleo section out, plug your own section in. But I encourage you to look through this first before you just try to revamp the whole thing. Because I talk about gluten, I talk about leaky gut, I talked about doctors, I talk about grains before and now, all of this information. So, I mean, it's got everything about lectins. It's really, really quite thorough. So please use this as a template with your clients and save yourself the time of recreating an entire food plan for people when it's already done. Because we're really not supposed to be telling people what to eat anyway. But when you share something like this, this is general information. If you're going to share this document on gluten with every client, it's general information, okay? Because you're giving it to everyone. You're not saying, okay, Sue, here's a diet for you, and Bob, here's a diet for you, and they're different. You're saying, here, I believe in a whole food plan. I believe that, you know, gluten is inflammatory or whatever, and you share it with everyone, okay? That way they're not going to say, well, she gave me this and she gave me that, okay? Does that make sense? General approach, and we got a whole webinar on that as well for you guys. Okay, let me go up and look at the questions real quick. Let's see, looking for the drop down. Come on. All right, any questions so far? Let me see. There we go. There's the chat. I forgot I had tea. Okay. Anita says, oh my God, Carmen, you're cracking me up. I never knew you were listening when I drive. What does that mean? Listening when you drive? Am I on the radio or something? I don't understand. Anyway, yeah. Okay. So in your Facebook feed, it's too much. It is too much. It's a lot. But you know what? Here's the other thing. You can kind of manage that stuff, you know, when you're opting out of all the ads and stuff like that. The other thing is as long as you have the words health coach in your title, in your name, in your group, you're going to get those marketing because that's how Facebook ads work. Is anybody doing Facebook ads yet? No? Oh my gosh. Like, Don't ask me how to do them because I don't know. And I gave up after trying and spending hundreds of dollars. I literally just said, I can't do this. And then I hired someone to do them and she sucked at it. So I lost a couple $100 more. And then I hired a guy to do it and he sucked at it too. Oh my gosh, you guys. So I have Kaylee, who I love, and maybe someday she'll do a training for us. There is training out there that can teach it to you. And if you're someone that's got patience of Job, go for it. But please, it's the one thing I'm never going to be able to do a training for you on. I just cannot. It's too frustrating and it made me feel so inadequate. It was horrible, but so powerful. So obviously it's powerful, right? Because you guys are getting tired of seeing stuff for health coaches. So it works. It works. Oh, Kathy said driving 42 instead of 50 miles an hour. Okay, I get you. Yeah. When we get offended, I know. I mean, but is that resonating for you guys though? Like the offense part? Like, are we just not getting all worked up about people selling to us? But that's what we do too. And that's what we should be doing. Okay. Karen says that she's trying them. Okay. Karen, if you master it, or Robin, you guys let me know. And you can train everybody. I will happily host you on a webinar to train everybody on how to do Facebook ads. I would be your host. You could be my panelist. I'd be happy to do that. So, okay. All right. So that's basically what I wanted to share with you guys about webinars today is to remind you that there is webinar training already done on how to do it in Zoom. That Zoom to me is the hands down the best platform. It just works. It just works. It's easy. And I show you how easy it is. That slide decks they're a necessity if you want to keep people's interest. If you want to do a group and you don't want to do a slide deck, just do a group meeting in Zoom. You don't even have to set up the webinar. You don't have to set up the webinar platform at all. Just keep that low cost meeting $9.99 a month thing and get familiar with being in front of a camera that way before you venture into webinars. I think the yearly plan and the annual plan has changed. I haven't been billed yet. I think I'm going to get billed next week or something for the next quarter or something like that. But it was several $100s to move into the webinar platform, but worth it. And one other thing I want to say also is I know a lot of people are, you know, and this is something the money mindset thing I'm talking a lot more about lately, because when we talk about how our relationship with money and we say, oh my gosh, it's $350 a quarter to have a webinar. I can't afford that. I only have $250 to spend on my business. Okay, so I'm encouraging everyone in this group to start shifting the way that you're talking about money, about your business, about the words that I can't, I don't have. That's not, I mean, like all of that negative talk is only going to bring more negativity into your life. So if you're trying to create abundance and financial well-being and you want to bring all that good stuff into your world, then the minute that you catch yourself saying something negative about money, I can't afford that right now, change it. Change it in your mind, however that looks, however you have to do it, whatever speaks to you. Even if you have to go out and listen to that book, Jen Sincero's book that I'm almost done with now, You're a Badass at Making Money. It's awesome. It's awesome. I absolutely saw so much change for me when I stopped saying the words, I can't afford it. That's too expensive. And Ian, my husband, I've talked about this before, he's terrible. Like, he's terrible. We're looking at taking a trip, and this is a perfect example for you guys. I had the You're a Badass at Making Money on in the car, and we were coming back from Nashville yesterday. And I said, we're going to listen to my money webinar. And it was for me, as much as I was like trying to get into his head a little bit, I wanted him to hear how she was talking about it. And he was on his phone. He was pulling up some vacation places. And I said, I want to stay at a nice resort when we go to Turks and Caicos, right? So he pulls it up and he goes, this place that you sent me is $1,000 a night. And I said, that's where I want to stay. He said, okay, so we're going to look at St. Lucia because it's not as expensive. At the time that she was talking about saying, don't talk about being something expensive, he is so immersed in his belief about money that he's sitting there while she's saying, don't do it. He's doing it. I looked at him and I said, I'll tell you what, don't use those words around me because I'm changing my mindset and it works for me. So don't say those types of things around me, right? So just know that when you are saying those things, it affects the people around you as well. So if you have someone in your life, you've got a husband who is saying negative stuff about money, it can seep into you as well. So ask them, I'm working on my money mindset right now. So I really would love if you didn't use terms that were negative about bringing money into my life. Because everything that happens around you affects you, right? I know you guys believe that. Okay. All right. So I'm going to stop my share. Make sure there's no more questions. Anita's got one here. Kim says, I'm excited about trying Zoom. I love it. Love it. Start with a meeting onto a webinar. That's exactly how I did it. Anita says, I have a Zoom question. Last week it cut me off after 45 minutes on a one-on-one video that I wasn't recording. Last night it let me go 60 minutes while recording. It didn't cut me off at all. Any idea if something's changed or maybe I did something wrong with setting up the first time? Okay, so you know what? I wonder if we can look at something. Let me look at something real quick for you while I've got you on, and let's see if it's in the settings. So give me a second if I'm able to do this. And then I'll, let's see. I believe it has to do with your plan too. If I'm not mistaken, it has to do with how your plan, like they give you a specific amount of minutes. I'm pulling this up. Hold on a moment. Let me check. And I'm on an unlimited account, so I don't know if it'll show me, but I remember thinking to myself that I had to be careful how much time I was doing on something, but I'm not sure. Yeah, it's not telling me on here. So here's what I would do. I would go, let me look at the knowledge base and see if I can shortcut this for you real quick so you don't have to spend time on it. Hold on a moment. Audio, video, sharing. I'm going to share my screen with you guys too while I'm doing this. So hold on. Let's see. Okay. Okay, can you guys see this little menu of popular topics? Okay, so let me just show you how I got there real quick. So to make sure, just to see if this was something that's has to do with your what your account is, like how you're signed up, I would go down to your knowledge base, and that takes you to that page that we were just on right here. And I would start exploring in there. But in the meantime, also remember when you're on Zoom, they typically have a little chat box. Like if I'm on my account, a little chat box will pop up if I'm lost or trying to figure something out. So I'll start a conversation with Zoom while I'm looking around so that you can shortcut that question. But it might be under, training, frequently asked questions, accessibility statement, how it works, etc. I would go into the knowledge base and I was asked questions about the account. If it was just a glitch, it could have just been a glitch, something that happened, maybe you lost signal. But let me throw this out there too as a reminder, you guys. When you are on a webinar and a signal goes, see you later, and all of a sudden you've lost everybody or something, you can always log back in and there they are. So remind people at the beginning of a webinar, if you have a fear of like maybe there's some weather going on, which you'll hear me say a lot, when the wind's blowing too hard around here because I'm up real high in this room, sometimes I'll get a low signal, but I'll tell people if it drops off, just stay put, just wait for me. Because it doesn't cut them off, it cuts me off. And then when I come in, everyone is where they were, which is something nobody told me before. So just know that no one is going anywhere out there. You're the one that's dropped off. So when you come back, they're still there. So don't panic, don't have your heartbeat going crazy and sweating and all that, okay? Because I thought I lost everybody one time. I'm like, oh no. And then I got on, I'm like, I was panicked. You could see me on the video and I'm like, oh my God, they're still there. Oh my gosh, they're still there. I thought everyone was gone. So I was a little embarrassed, but okay. All right, you guys, I think that's it. Kathy gave you guys the link for the badass thing. The video, just to kind of get an idea of what it is. The first book she wrote is awesome too. Okay. Oh, good. Okay. Anita says she pulled up pricing. It says the free one has unlimited one-on-one meetings and 40-minute group meetings. Yeah, you might have set it up a little different. So awesome. All right. Bye, Robin. Thanks for being on. And great. All right. So no more questions, you guys. So as a reminder, this will be loaded into the platform I just showed you. Anytime I do a training, I've never, knock on everything wood, forgotten to record. So the only time it wouldn't be in there is if I forgot to record it. So it will be plugged in by Kaylee. We usually get it in within 24 hours. If you want to go back and watch the replay, log in and it'll be there. All right, everybody, have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you on the boards. Any questions you have, throw them on the link on the feed, and I'll be happy to answer everything. Make sure you tag me. See you later, guys. Bye. Good to have you guys here new too. Bye, Kim.